Middle school encounter I won't forget. This has been my one and only true paranormal experience to date. I've had a few encounters with seeing shadow people, but this is one that truly terrified me. One summer evening, I stayed up late watching Headbangers Ball on MTV with my older sister. I was a big fan of death metal as a kid. This was summer 2005. I got up to go to bed, and as I passed our front door to go to my room, I see this Native American man standing there. I'll never forget. He was about 6'3" to 6'5". He had on a black suit and one of those old-timey top hats. He had long hair and these piercing blue eyes. I froze in fear for a moment, and then began to scream loudly. My sister jumped up and saw him as well, and threw a nearby salt shaker at him, and this was the part that got me. His face contorted into this incredibly sad expression as he turned around and phased through our front door. I'll never forget feeling so bad for screaming at what I can only assume was a friendly entity. As dumb as that may sound, a few days later I was telling the story to my dad, who was out of state at the time, and he asked me to explain what the spirit looked like. Afterwards, he said my description sounded just like his great uncle who had died when my father was small. I still think about those sad eyes from time to time. Haunting in my middle school. Please help me think of an explanation. Hi everyone. I believe this is the best subreddit for this, but please let me know if I'm wrong. Also, please let me know of any questions you have, and I will do my best to remember the answers. Content warning, rape mention. When I was in 7th grade, I had a paranormal experience. I'm not going to try and beg you to believe an internet stranger story, as I have no way to prove it. What I will ask you to do is try and provide a natural explanation for the story I am about to tell. Please prove me wrong. I don't really believe in the paranormal, but I cannot figure out what really happened on this day. Calling me a liar doesn't help me out, but telling me why it was not a ghost is exactly what I want. My goals here are to get a lead on a satisfactory explanation, and to have a place where this story is written out once and for all. I have retold this about 20 times now, and it creeps me out slightly each time. I am in 7th grade, in a combination middle and high school in the United States. I am 12 years old, turning 13 that summer. The year is either 2005 or 2006. I am in band class, in the brass classroom, even though saxophone is technically a woodwind. One day, I'm sitting in Mr. M's band class with the rest of the brass, warming up. Mr. M has brass and Miss S has woodwind and percussion, and we're all just playing our instruments randomly. And Mr. M is up there near the front of the class, flipping through sheet music or something along those lines. I don't really exactly remember. Suddenly, the double doors to the classroom begin banging back and forth hard. They bang 3 times and stop. We all stop playing and look up due to the volume. We didn't see anything. Important notes about these double doors. They are loose and very easy to open. The doors don't even have a latch or lock between them. There is an inch of clearance above, below, and between the doors. They also had that narrow little classroom window on both of them. Yet they were banging as if they were chained together and we couldn't see anyone on the other side. Mr. M checks and apparently sees no one. We start class and I'm wondering if it will happen again, as I already have a nervous feeling. Sure enough, several minutes later, the doors once again bang loudly enough to make us all stop again. Mr. M quickly opens them. My friends and I, looking much more quickly this time, did not see anyone, not through, between, above, or below these doors. Mr. M goes and asks Miss S across the hall if any of her students are running around unattended. She says no, and Mr. M locks the door to the auditorium and cafeteria. The door to outside locks behind you when you leave. He also checks a tiny bathroom for someone hiding in it. It's all clear, no one. This means access to the band hall was now closed off, and devoid of students, according to Mr. M. We nervously continue class, this time with Mr. M standing very close to the door, and all of us anxious and ready to look up. Of course, the third time happens. Mr. M throws open the doors mid-slam, and no one is there. We didn't see anyone, no shadow even. He confirms the door is still locked, and no window came over from the woodwind or percussion session. You can imagine how loud the doors were to cause this much of a disruption to such a loud class. After the class let out, Mr. M goes ahead of us and unlocks the door leading to the cafeteria. We pour into the band hall, nervously discussing what had just happened, filling in the woodwind and percussion kits. I'm scared out of my mind. I know what I saw those 3 times, and there was not an arm or torso between those doors. Before I reached the cafeteria door, I suddenly heard an incredibly loud, omnipresent voice. It sounds like a distorted sort of whooshing and barking through a human's throat, coming from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It fills the band hall, and our ears with an unearthly sound and language. It howls about 3 syllables at us, and we all scream and run out as fast as we can, my heart pounding. My friends J.E. and J.B. and I dashed to math class, asking each other what had just happened. I have a bad visual memory, but a near-perfect auditory memory. I'll remember the sound for the rest of my life. In math class, J.B. and J.E. and I are speculating on what it was. After some discussion, J says he's pretty sure of what the voice said, but I didn't want to say it anxiously. J.B. and I pester him until he reluctantly tells us. When I hear his words, I get goosebumps because he's right. That is what we heard. Rape, then death. Strange experience at school? I'm not sure if this should be on Reddit No Sleep, but because it's true, I'm putting it here. At school in grade 8, our teacher was out of the room, so my friends decided to do some Charlie challenge at the time. All I knew is that it's rumored to summon demons. When they asked me to join, I wisely decided to stay out of it, and only watched. They asked this Charlie demon thing if he was there and shocked me when the pencil moved to yes. They asked it many questions, all but one. Charlie, do you like One Direction? Were answered. But when we had to leave because the bell rang, Charlie said they couldn't leave. They left anyways. And since then, students have reported moving shadow people, strange noises, whispers, and a slight Mexican accent in the room. And whenever people do the challenge in there, the pencil always spins. Is this paranormal at all? I was worried for the rest of the day, and I felt uneasier on my friends for the rest of that day. And you can hear strange whispers around them, and their houses even. Sleighton Farm School. Okay, so after about a week of thinking on this again, I decided to search Reddit for other people's encounters at this place, though the original post from 2 years ago won't allow me to post, and I'm glad I found this. Not too long ago, my boyfriend and I decided to never go back to Sleighton again. We encountered too many things that we'd like to admit at this place. I honestly don't know where to start with it, so I'll start with the first visit. My boyfriend went to go pick up a friend of his after he got into a car accident and happened to pass the school on the way there. He texted me about this place, and so we messaged a few friends to come back later that night. After I gotten off work, it was me, him, and another male friend of his, gender is important it seems, who went back. We parked out front of the first building, which we think is the admin building, and we couldn't find a way in there, so we went along to the next building, which seemed to be a dorm house, 2 stories with a basement. When you first enter, there's a hallway on each side of you, a set of stairs leading up to the bedrooms, and another hall besides said stairs. We went to left first, looking in and searching around the rooms, which were filled with broken furniture and filled with clothing untouched for years. We then made our way to the opposite hallway into what was a gathering room of sorts. with a huge fireplace with H-E-L-L, hell, spray painted above it. This is where my looming feeling of someone watching me became way more apparent. I instantly felt sick to my stomach, cold, and my palms started sweating. I needed out of there, so we left immediately after stating my concern for my safety. We then made our way further up the road towards the church, passing huge 2- and 3-story buildings until we reached a little schoolhouse before the church. My boyfriend and I noticed something extremely odd, what seemed like a rather large black figure coming towards our friend behind us from the dorm building we had just left. So we decided to duck into the little schoolhouse. Mind you, it is around midnight by this time and very dark outside with our flashlights out, but we could see this dark figure through the night who did not have a flashlight. It then hurried itself behind said building at a very quick pace, which kind of did startle us. We stayed for a second watching to see if it would return and saw nothing. We then made our way back to my boyfriend's car and left, kind of in disbelief. Each encounter there gets worse, but they're all novel length to explain them, if you're all willing to hear. Doppelganger at my school? Okay, so first of all, I literally just posted this, but then deleted it because I realized that there were some terms that may not be understood, and the post didn't really capture the gravity of the situation, so I'm reposting it with more clarity this time, because I really want someone to help me try and make sense of this. For some background information, I am an 18-year-old girl, longtime lurker, and this would be my second post to Reddit. This incident took place in my school. It was a couple months back, I believe in February or so, and when it happened, the strangeness of it didn't really hit me until a couple days after the fact. Because of this, a few minor details may be off, as stated in the first time I tried to post this, but the actual event is totally on point. Before I begin the story, I'll give a description of my school so you can better understand what happened. My school is actually consisting of several buildings within the compound. There are 2 main buildings, the Tech Voc wing and the traditional wing. The traditional wing is actually the main area of the school where the canteen and auditorium are, as well as the main staff room. The wing houses are a greater part of the school population, which would be the freshmen to the larger part of the juniors. In my country, kids start high school as early as 11 years old, so from 11 to 16-year-olds. Well, it's more like a middle school to those who live in, I guess, North America and those other places. And it's really where the kids in that group spend most of their day. The Tech Voc building is where the less prominent and more hands-on subjects are, including woodwork, music, visual and performing arts, etc., etc., etc. It's also where all the seniors, a fragment of the juniors, and the advanced levels classes are housed. Both wings have 3 floors to them. I am in the advanced level, and our class is on the 2nd floor. Now that's out of the way. I'll get into the story. On this particular day, it was just me and one of my friends, Nicey. Our other friend wasn't in school that day, so we were left to entertain one another. It was lunchtime, and we had been in our classroom until Nicey wanted to go downstairs. She wanted to find her brother, who had some money for her. She wasn't feeling well and had wanted to go home. Her brother's class was on the 3rd floor of the main building, and I, not having anything else to do, decided to follow her. It was a pretty long walk from our classroom to her brother's, but when we did make it there, she found him pretty quickly. Then she found out that he hadn't spent any of the money from what I could remember. Apparently he was supposed to change the money and keep half for himself for transport. Nicey was, of course, really ticked off about this, and they started arguing a little before she ended up leaving all of the money, telling him to find his way home somehow. I'm assuming that he probably said he didn't need the money or something like that, so that was that. Next, we had to go to the staff room. I honestly can't remember why, but it was either she wanted to tell our 4 mistress homeroom teacher that she was leaving early, or I had to speak to a teacher myself. I don't remember. Now, on our way down, we ran into a boy in one of my classes. We'll call him Copper. Copper was on his way up to the third floor as we were leaving, and we bumped into each other on the stairs. I distinctly remember saying, "Lord Officer" to him. It's just like a playful jab kind of thing for the position he holds within our school, which, if your schools are familiar with the prefects and prefect bodies, granted it's similar to the ways ours work, was basically the equivalent of being a police commissioner of some sort. He didn't really say anything back, but I remember him giving a little wave in response before continuing on his way. And me and my friend went on our way. We headed to the main staff room of the school. Normally, though, students are allowed to walk in without having to wait and see whoever teacher they had to, but since this was lunchtime, and there's a sort of rule in regards to teachers and their lunchtimes, we had to knock and wait for someone to answer. Now, naturally, this was going to be a pretty long wait, and I think I'd actually knocked again after the first time. Patience is a virtue, my friends, one that I don't possess. Just to further describe the scene, there are two doors at the staff door. The one that we were at was facing the main corridor, and the other was further down, facing another corridor where the girls' bathroom was. I've been standing facing the other door, and keep in mind, this was probably about 15 minutes after we left Nicey's brother's classroom. So, as I was facing the direction of the second door, I saw it open, and out stepped Copper, holding what I guess was probably work from a teacher or something like that. But when I did see him, I remember thinking, wait, what? Me and my friend, I just passed him downstairs, didn't we? I know he was going up the same time we were coming down, and in fact, as he was passing by, he asked us, "Who you guys waiting for?" And Nicey responded, "Miss whoever." I asked him, "Didn't we just pass you downstairs?" His response was, "I don't know," and he walked off. I was momentarily confused, and I asked Nicey, "Didn't we just pass him downstairs?" She said yes, so I know both of us had seen him. I jokingly replied, "Wow, he must be Superman and flew down here," or something like that. I brushed it off and didn't think about it for the rest of the day. We got to see who we wanted, and Nicey left soon after that. Then a couple days later, my mind went back to the incident for some odd reason. And now that I was really thinking about it, I then realized that there was something rather odd that I had missed initially. To make this as clear as possible, the third floor is at the very top of the main building, and to get there, you have to use 2 flights of stairs, and both flights have a lot of stairs. So then I thought, how exactly did he get downstairs so quickly? It would have been virtually impossible to make it down in the time frame he would have to get to the staff room. He would have had to literally flown down the stairs. Then I realized something that was even creepier. We would have had to have been downstairs by at least 5 minutes before him, since we didn't see him anywhere on our way to the staff room after meeting up at the stairs. And even if he had somehow managed to make it down around the same time, or a little after us, neither me nor Nicey ever saw him go into the staff room at all, only when he was leaving. There was no way he could have skipped all those stairs, beat us to the staff room, and get his stuff before us, and do all of this without us ever even seeing him do it. This is further affirmed by the fact that we've been downstairs and by the staff room for at least 15 minutes from the time we left the third floor, and I had been facing the direction of the second door the entire time. He would have either had to have turned invisible for a while or somehow had been downstairs, or at least closer to the staff room when we were still upstairs, thus giving him a head start. I don't know. And making it that he had actually made it there long before us. Now, I've heard about doppelgangers before, and always thought they were just made an interesting story, or the persons who have said to have seen them personally were just over-exaggerating, or their minds were just playing tricks on them. But after fully thinking this over and coming up with no logical explanation for how Copper could have just appeared downstairs in a time where he would have still had to be making his way downstairs, and really seeing no type of sense in this whole thing, I've come to the conclusion that something extremely freaky had occurred that was missed before. So, the only question I now have is, who or what did me and Nicey see on the stairwell that day?